What's up, you guys? This is Bryce. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Book of Abraham. If I had to choose one big issue that stands out for me when I was looking into the history of the church, the Book of Abraham is it. We're going to look into what it is and also whether or not it is a true translation of the Egyptian scrolls that Joseph Smith purchased. So let's get into it. There's a lot of very interesting things that church members are not shown and they're not taught, and it was really surprising to me to see this firsthand and to be so surprised. So here's what it is. The Book of Abraham is in the Pearl of Great Price, which is a collection of different books canonized by the LDS Church. And in 1880, they canonized the Book of Abraham, which is a translation that Joseph Smith did of different papyri, different scrolls, Egyptian scrolls that he purchased from a man named Micheal Chandler. And he also had several mummies that were purchased. Some of the big issues were that the word Abraham does not appear anywhere in the scrolls. Nowhere. And today we know that they are the funerary texts for a man named Hor, who presumably is one of the mummies buried in Egypt that they found and brought over to America. And then Micheal Chandler obviously then later sold. The main issues are that back then they thought that one hieroglyph contained more than just a word or two or three words or even a sentence. They thought it contained about a paragraph of English text. And today we know that that's not true. And in fact, when Joseph Smith came out with this publication of the Book of Abraham, in the Times and Seasons, he posted or printed these different facsimiles, is what he calls them, and shows different pictures of a man on an altar and of different Egyptian beings, and then this big circle one with a bunch of different hieroglyphs on it. The issue here is arguing whether his translation is a translation that will stand up against today's Egyptologists who know how to translate the different hieroglyphs. There's just some very disturbing things once you're in the church, and if you were taught that that the Book of Abraham was historical, meaning that it happened, and that it was by the hand of Abraham. Joseph said that as well, that it was by his hand, and to find out as a Latter-day Saint that the church actually agrees that these are funerary texts for a man named Hor, getting into the afterlife and the different Egyptian gods. But Joseph Smith takes a whole new spin on it about Abraham and about pre-existence or a life before this life, into different intelligences and first and second estates. All of these which do correlate with a book that was written during Joseph's time. And so quite startling for the church to come out, I believe around 2014, before or after, the church came out with the Book of Abraham, Translation Historicity, that essay. And it's not dated. It doesn't even have a name of who wrote it. Just at the very bottom it says something like, "We recognize the scholarly work, and of those scholars, they've permitted us to be able to publish this here, to use it." That's it. So it's not like the church is like, yay, thumbs up, like family proclamation, things that we hang on our wall. And this isn't something that the church would want to hang on the wall, but it's something that the members just don't know. But it can also say, because it's posted on their website, yeah, it's there, it's been there the whole time. How could you not have known, And so I know that the church is dealing with a lot of different, issues, and maybe this is one way to be able to post it on their website and say it's there. The church takes a different stance on this, although they agree with the Egyptologists of today that the word Abraham does not appear anywhere on those scrolls, and they also agree that that Joseph Smith's attempted translation is not in fact a translation, but rather they think that it might have been the thing that spurred Joseph Smith into a revelatory state, and the Book of Abraham was revelation directed from God, but not a translation from the hieroglyphs, which you could make a very strong case Joseph Smith thought he was doing. He thought that he was translating Egyptian, which the Book of Mormon coming from a Reformed Egyptian, and which there is no existence that we can find of the language Reformed Egyptian, which is also another issue for the Book of Mormon, something that I'll likely get into in another video. But for me, back to my personal experience, this was huge. This was so big for me to have believed that this was a historical document, which many people in the LDS Church, I'm not alone, believe that the Book of Abraham is a historical book, that it's true, right? Turns out it wasn't a translation, and even in the Pearl of Great Price, in the Book of Abraham, those facsimils with the Egyptian hieroglyphs on them, they're in the book, and so it appears to be evidence for the Book of Abraham and the truthfulness of it, but it has no relation. And so this is very startling that the church is not getting out in ahead of this, which kind of makes sense. Now, the RLDS Church, or Community of Christ, those who stayed back and followed Joseph Smith's son, Joseph Smith Jr., it's probably the second largest splinter group of the LDS Church. The Community of Christ Church does not recognize the Book of Abraham as canonized scripture. They recognize it more as something that Joseph Smith wanted to try translation and did, but it's more of a fiction and something that is maybe there's something on the revelation side, but they know that the Egyptian hieroglyphs do not translate to what Joseph was saying that it was translating to, which is very troubling, because if you're a member of the church and you believe that Joseph was just going on more of a revelation type of stint, if it's just revelation, he himself believed he was translating these hieroglyphics, these Egyptian characters, directly. Right there in the preface of the Book of Abraham that has all these facsimils, they are there. And he has a translation in English for each person and for several hieroglyphs. So that was troubling to me, because if I'm believing in a prophet that translates something like the Book of Mormon, something that an angel gave to him on gold plates, to translate a language, Reformed Egyptian, and we can't prove the Reformed Egyptian, only that it doesn't really exist anywhere else, which it should. It should somewhere, but it doesn't. And but with Egyptian, that was very, very old, and we still have it, and we still have papyri and different tablets that contain their history. And that's an issue. So after being faced with this was kind of, for me, this was a really big issue for me, because it, for me, kind of invalidated a lot of the work that Joseph Smith had done as a prophet. And it gives lean to, if he's not able to translate with the translation process, whether it's the Book of Mormon, Book of Abraham, it brings into question Is he just coming up with this on his own? What other explanations are there for him to be, putting forth these words? And so, and I'll put up here on the screen a book that can relate to a lot of the terminology and things said in the Book of Abraham, possible ideas that might have influenced Joseph as he was writing the Book of Abraham. And many different ideas discussed in this book, and different scientific things that are relayed in this book, talking about Kolob and intelligences and different ideas about the universe. Many beliefs from the Mormon Church, Mormon religion, have come from the Book of Abraham. You got the pre-existence, you got again those intelligences, so the idea of spirits, and where God lives. Many different things that it's pretty compact with the doctrine. And this translation did come after the Book of Mormon, and it came several years before Joseph Smith's death in Carthage. So, with all that said, and I invite you to go ahead and do your own research on this stuff, and I have as well. But I'm just going to leave that there for you, however you think you should handle that. I hope that the church will be more forthright and get ahead of these issues. I'm not against people being in the church if that works for them. That's wonderful. And if someone needs to leave the church, if it's not working for them, then let them go, let them be themselves, let them be authentic, however it is that they need to be. That's super important, just as being a human towards another person. If you're casting someone out of your group because of their choice to leave, well, maybe it wasn't necessarily their choice. Maybe they felt kind of forced out because the truthfulness wasn't there for them when they were taught that it was. I taught many people on my mission about the Book of Mormon and about the different stories that had happened to Joseph, and baptized people not knowing these things that I know now, from the CES Letter and from other sources that are mainly quotes from prophets like Brigham Young, people around Joseph Smith, things that are quite disturbing, and hopefully things that I'll be able to do more videos on later on. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Smash the like button for me. Let YouTube know that, and all the people on YouTube know that I'm making these videos. If you got value from it, please hit the like button. Share this with anybody that's trying to figure stuff out about the Book of Abraham, and also put a comment down below of what you think about the Book of Abraham, what you think about these two different sides, the revelation idea for the Book of Abraham, or the direct translation being incorrect, and the church knowing about that, but not necessarily letting the members know. It's on their website, but it's not anything discussed over a pulpit anywhere, unless you're an apologist in some conferences that they do. So some places, yes, but definitely not mainstream. I would argue that. So thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.